Hello, I'm Luca and this is the Web3 in Travel podcast, where you can learn about crypto, blockchain, and how the new internet will change travel. So there's the SBF trial going on right now. SBF is Sam Bankman-Fried, and is the former CEO and founder of FTX. FTX is an exchange, a crypto exchange, something like Coinbase or Binance. You may have heard about it, but shortly, it's an exchange which came out of nowhere, became very quickly very big. It was also good in some aspects, a bit less in others, and the founder became a star. You may have heard about FTX in the context of big campaigns, big advertisements. They were advertising a big stadium. Well, I won't tell you the whole story of FTX, but basically it's one person coming out from nothing and from nowhere. Actually, it came from money because it came from a rich family very close to the Democrat establishment in the United States, and making something which Coinbase, nor Binance, nor Kraken, or all the other exchanges could do. A miracle kid, loved by VCs to an extent that you can read some conversations amongst VCs after Zoom calls with him, in which they decided to invest millions, tens of millions, hundreds, I don't know. And they were basically mesmerized by him. So one interesting aspect about SBF is that he was crafting a whole image about himself as an effective altruist. In short, a good person trying to maximize good in the world. Why am I talking about this in the context of Web3 in travel? Because I am afraid we will get the same kind of characters in the next bull run. So let's learn from this mistake we have done in crypto in the last bull run, and let's see if we can avoid this in travel. Of course, it's really hard to avoid this. It's like a con man or the next politician who will solve all your problems. It's something we want. People who come and say and do things we want to happen and say things we want to listen to. So we are biased toward this kind of people. So how do you, it's really easy to say, now let's avoid this next time. And then next time somebody else comes, and we fall for it because it's slightly different. Let's try to understand the basics of crypto. What do I mean by that? Well, we forget them. Most people don't even learn the basic of crypto. And I'm not talking about the technical aspects, but why crypto is even there. Why do we even need blockchains? Why do we make all these efforts, or often fake efforts, to say we are decentralized, when decentralized is less efficient? It's more expensive. It's slower. Decentralized is really bad in doing most of the things other systems do, right? I've talked about this in the past, but let's focus now on the fundamentals. How far are we from the next, from the next bull run and from the first travel, Web3 travel like explosion? Maybe a year, maybe 5, maybe more, who knows? But this is a good time to get ready. So how do you, as an industry, how do you protect yourself from characters like SBF? And you may expect me to say, well, be careful with certain kinds of behavior like, sociopaths tend to be likable. They tend to craft a very precise image. They are a bit eccentric. SBF had this long curly hair. A mistake we make as humans is to idolize those people, and whatever they say is true because they say it, not because the thing they say is actually true. We fall in with Elon Musk, for instance, too, right? Whatever Elon Musk says is because the guy is very clever, he's very rich, he's done many good things. So whatever he talks about is right, and we know he's not, right? He said pretty stupid things about Bitcoin and Dogecoin, for instance. So this is what I could tell you. Be careful of the signs, of the red flags, but that's a trick. Those signs are ever changing. The successful con people, I don't know if you say this, con men, the successful sociopaths adapt to the situation and they adapt to the zeitgeist of the moment. So if the next bull run is going to be different, and it's going to be different, we're not going to have a SBF 2.0. We're going to have somebody completely different coming. Okay, SBF came from a rich background, so the next guy is going to come from a poor background, for instance, right? It's really, really hard in a bull run to judge people and say, okay, that guy, too many red flags, okay? Because the red flags are always there, but again, in the bull run, we kind of lose control. So what do we have to do? Well, I would argue there's not much we can do, because if you see this as a competition between you as an individual and the sociopath, who's of course not targeting you only, is targeting millions, still the sociopath is doing this all day with a lot of resources, okay? And you're not doing this all day. You're not waking up and say, okay, how do I protect myself from the next SBF? You don't do that. So the game is lost from the beginning because there's not enough attention to deploy on this problem. So how do we do that? Well, again, we don't do this. We can't protect ourselves from those kind of people. They are going to be there. They are attracted to crypto very much because crypto is a great ground for those kind of hunters for many reasons. But what we can do today, what I can do today is to remind myself and you what is the antidote to this kind of people. Well, the antidote to this kind of people is more decentralization. And let me explain what I mean. All right. So in general, to have things working, and I'm not talking about crypto, but in general, we have to trust some people. We trust some people at every level. We trust our doctor and his authority or her authority. We trust the politicians. We trust our dictator or our prime minister. We have to trust people when the system doesn't have a trustless framework. So someone has to take care of that thing. And unless we have some automatic system, which is decentralized, we have to trust someone. And that someone could be a good person or a bad person. Many times a bad person, because again, hierarchical structures tend to attract at the top people with those characteristics. So how do you solve the problem? Well, first of all, you never solve it because human beings will never solve this problem, but you make the space where centralization is needed, meaning the space where trusting people is needed, much smaller. Let me give you an example, specifically for crypto. Okay, I have a need. I need to exchange my token A for my token B. Back in 2017, 18, and before, I had to trust a centralized exchange. Right? The only way to exchange Bitcoin for fiat or Bitcoin for Ethereum or Ethereum for my token or your token for my token, we needed centralized exchanges. And that means you send your tokens to them, you trust them not to run away with them or to do something else like SBF did, maybe use them for investing. And then you get back the other token you just bought, or maybe you keep it there because you trust them. Am I saying this is the wrong way to do things? No, that's the best way to do things when there's no alternatives. Okay? I prefer to have a president and I prefer to have a bunch of politicians running a country, even if they steal, even if they're corrupt, rather than have nobody. Anarchy is, at least arguably, is worse. Sometimes we have so bad politicians that sometimes anarchy could be actually better, but no, anarchy is worse. Like nothing will work, right? So if there's no alternative, okay, let's trust someone. But if we can, let's build alternatives. And that's why we have blockchain and crypto and all these decentralized technologies, because there are possibilities now to create alternative, trustless, meaning I don't need to trust a person, systems. So in the case of exchanges, back in 2017 or already a bit before, there were already decentralized exchanges. Like the first one I've used was called IDEX or EDEX, and it was very, very hard to use, to the point that I rarely used it. It was easy to lose money. I lost some tokens there. And I used centralized exchanges, trusting them, okay? But then already in 2020, we started seeing this new thing called Uniswap, which was more efficient and much easier to use. And we started using it. And this kind of decentralized systems improved in the years. And today they are making a lot of volume, sometimes more than the centralized exchanges. And they are relatively easy to use. Not as easy as a centralized one, because you still have to interact with a wallet. But if you know how to use a wallet, they are very easy and they have other advantages. Anyway, today we, in crypto, in DeFi, we use decentralized exchanges a lot. We build some alternative, which wasn't there before. So we don't need to trust SBF for everything. We don't need to trust Binance or Kraken. Mostly for users like me, that become the place where, that's where you can exchange your euro or dollars. But all the rest, maybe not. Maybe for some very specific use cases, they are still better. But the centralized exchanges are fine for most of the use cases we need, right? So we solved that problem by decentralizing, not by being extremely careful about, who is SBF, who is CZ from Binance, who is, Jesse Powell, I think his name, from Kraken, looking at his life, his behavior, what he says online, etc., etc. We don't need to do that. We can safely ignore them, okay, and use other systems. That's the same thing which should happen in travel and will happen in travel in the long term, with, of course, the risk that in the short term, we will have to trust people. Now, travel has many use cases in which Web3 technologies, crypto can be used. And they're very complex. So I take it for granted that we will not be able to decentralize everything at the beginning. And I am perfectly aware that we have to use a mix of centralized things and decentralized things. This is fine. What is important in order to avoid situations like SBF? Oh, by the way, maybe I should mention that basically SBF lost all the money of the customers, so tens of billions of dollars, and they will get back probably just a fraction of this. So to avoid these kind of situations, we still need to be judges of characters. But again, I'm not very optimistic about that, because in bull runs, it's like when everybody's drunk, basically. But we can learn to evaluate the level of decentralization of a project. What does it mean? Evaluate the level of human risk in a project. Okay? So let's say you are using for your business, travel business, one Web3 project. It's important to be able to ascertain the level of decentralization, because if you start counting on this system too much and you think it's decentralized, then maybe you may be in for a bad surprise where the project itself does something you wouldn't expect it to be able to do. Because decentralization often means it doesn't mean I will not do that bad thing. It means I cannot do that bad thing. Okay? So let's say, let's go back to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not going to shut down tomorrow, not because somebody at the Bitcoin headquarters says, trust me, I won't do that. It's because Bitcoin as a network is not able to do that. Or at least it's very, 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 and put many very at the end of the sentence, hard. Okay? So if you are building your business on Bitcoin, there's not a lot of risk of the fact that Bitcoin will shut down in the short term. And that's infrastructure. Ethereum is the same. If you're building on Ethereum, the chances that Ethereum tomorrow decides that tokens are not allowed anymore or NFTs are not allowed anymore is very small. And especially it is not connected to one single person, like Vitalik Buterin or something. It's much more complex than that. That's how you have to think, right? Now, of course, I see a situation in which many people in the travel industry will use Web3 services, and these services are not really critical for them. So even if they shut down, okay, it's not the end of the world, and that's fine. I guess this is part of the evolution of the decentralization in travel, basically, right? But you have to learn to make these analyses, in my opinion, if you are using Web3 services or if you are actually building them and you count, you depend on other Web3 services. Why? Well, because let's call it the decentralization theater temptation. And I'm going to talk about something which has happened countless times in other verticals and will happen in travel for sure. It works like this. You start in, you are in travel, you want to do something crypto related because you love it and you love the idea, you love, all the properties crypto has, what you can do for travel, what you can do for the world, etc., etc. It's the kind of ideological inception in which you say, I'm going to do this on blockchain in travel. And then you look for a product or a service, right? Because you want to sell something, you want to make something people need and use. And you have this idea. Right, you have this idea, you start building it, and then you realize that it's hard to do it in a decentralized manner. And you go like, wow, if I could do this in a centralized manner, it would be so fast and so easy. Maybe I can centralize a little. And you centralize a little, right? You remove, basically what you normally do is you remove agency from your users. They can do less things, or they have to do less uncomfortable things or dangerous things. And you do this for them, right? Maybe you custody their NFTs. This is fine. I mean, actually, this is good in many cases. The point is that you are in blockchain. You are in a decentralized environment, and you are strongly incentivized in keeping the decentralized narrative, because who wants centralized systems anyway in crypto, in Web3, in travel? Nobody wants them, right? So yeah, we are decentralized, and then we change a little bit. So for you can't. We're gonna keep the NFTs for you now. You can't move them anymore, etc., whatever. That's a bad example because once you've given NFTs, they are independent, but it could be any other thing. Or maybe this new kind of NFT we do, well, it's just gonna be a digital asset. It's not actually on chain. It's too expensive, too slow, blah blah blah. Again, that's where the divergence happens. You are centralizing because you need, or because you want to go faster, or because it's the only way now until the technology improves, whatever. You're centralizing a bit. Nothing wrong about that. On the other hand, you're not adjusting your narrative, right? In which you should say, okay, we had to centralize. You are basically now swapping some usually smart contract risk for human risk. Okay, and that's actually the honest thing to do, because when you go decentralized, when you are decentralized, it's not that there is no risk, it's just a different kind of risk, right? So And I've talked about this in the past, like Uniswap smart contracts are very safe. The smart contracts your startup writes today and deploys tomorrow are not that safe. So maybe centralized at that moment could be even safer. So you forget, or you are incentivized to kind of spin the narrative, right? Yeah, your marketing department knows what to say, they're going to say it, and you're building anyway, so you're not too busy, you're not too focused on the narrative. And if this goes too far ahead on both sides, you are centralizing more and more and more. Maybe your investors are pushing you, or whatever. Maybe the market is not responding, and you are not changing the narrative, or maybe even making more we are the centralized thing because maybe a bull run hit. What I'm describing is not really a problem now. Nobody cares about decentralization now. Nobody really cares about NFTs. Nobody cares about anything, right? So there's no pressure there. When crypto becomes the affair of geniuses again, when crypto becomes again the next thing, the big revolution, which is eating the world away, you are going to have to look as decentralized as possible if you want your product to succeed, your token to succeed, etc., etc. That's when it gets really hard, and that's when people are also much more forgiving. Because who cares if they are just pretending that they are decentralized as long as the token goes up, right? So even your base is going to fight against you if you want to be honest. Because imagine your token, which is going up for 5% a week, goes up, everybody is happy, they're waiting to cash out, because they will cash out and crash your token sooner or later anyway. But anyway, they want it to go a bit higher, and you come out with a press release and say, okay, we have released a new NFT, which is not actually an NFT, it's a digital asset because we have technical limitations, and the token loses 50%. The token is really toxic. I mean, if you care about the price of your token, it's hell, okay? It's very short moments of bliss in which you are rich, everybody around you is rich, your people who believed you in October 2023 are rich on paper, and then it becomes hell very quickly. So I would suggest also another thing, as a token founder, token launcher, don't care about the price of your token. Your token is a tool. It depends on your specific product or service. Is a tool which measures the quality and the importance of your company in a very inefficient way. Okay. If you chase the price of your token, you're gonna lose anyway. The only way you're not gonna lose if you sell it at the top yourself, because then you made money at least. Right? But if you don't touch your token, which is what I would suggest any founder, you don't touch your token for years, it's gonna go up and then it's gonna go down a lot. It's gonna crash. You can't really chase this dragon. And the token is one of those things which tell you decentralization is not comfortable, right? Because your token having this very, very wide price changes is really uncomfortable, and it's decentralized. It's out there. People are buying it. People are selling it. People are speculating. People are manipulating the token. It's out of your control. You think having a token is good, you will hope, you will dream not having had a token because it's so distracting. And that's another aspect of decentralization for you. Same thing with governance, right? Oh yeah, let's the community decide on things, and then they decide the wrong thing. Maybe not only the thing you don't like, but completely wrong, because governance often is really stupid. Stupid in the sense that people do not vote based on based on knowledge. It's just vote. How many times people get in and they say, okay, who votes more, yes or no? More yes, okay, I'll vote yes. They don't even know what they're voting, all right? That's another aspect of this decentralization. So decentralization is just a property. It's not the good thing against the bad thing, which is centralization. Okay. So you have to find at the right moment, in every specific moment of your, let's say you have a startup, you have to find the right balance between centralization and decentralization. But again, as I was saying, the risk is trying to sugarcoat and to make a theater of decentralization. Some people will be very successful in pretending it's decentralized while it in fact is completely centralized. SBF is not a good example. SBF was running a centralized exchange and he wasn't pretending it to be decentralized. I mean, he could not have, because centralized exchanges are centralized. Well, in fact, it turns out it was more centralized than we even thought, because behind the scenes, the trading arm, Alameda, was using our money basically to trade, but that doesn't matter. SBF is a good example in the sense that he came into crypto and he couldn't care less about crypto. Crypto was just a tool to make money and, in his words, to improve the world, which actually turned out he wasn't able to do. He probably never actually wanted to do. He was just trying to become a big guy out there. So we will have people in Web3 in travel. We may have them already, but it's a bit early, so not many, not very prominent. But we will have people in Web3 in travel which do not care at all about any decentralization. They just see where the money goes. They see, they will see more money comes into this. They will see that if you want to raise money, you have to say blockchain, or like some people do this now with AI. And they will do whatever it needs, whatever it takes to make money. And again, because we as human beings are still more sensitive and more focused on hierarchical structures, we will follow. We will follow them because it's much easier to understand a person, to trust a person who's very good into tricking you to trust him or her, than trusting a network. It's so hard to explain why you can trust the Bitcoin network or the Ethereum network. Trust that guy is good. He did this, he did that. You can trust the guy. Very easy. It's so natural. It comes so natural to us to trust a person. And on the other hand, trust the system, trust the network. There's many nodes, and every node is not bigger than that, so it can be a node which is run by whom. It gets very complicated very fast, and it's really, really hard to evaluate. So it's hard to trust networks. It's easier to trust people, even if networks, the right and good networks, are much better at not needing trust, right? To trust a network, you need a long time. A new blockchain launches tomorrow morning. It needs a lot of time to be trustworthy. It could have bugs, right? The nodes may be too centralized. Or a new smart contract which you launch tomorrow is not trustworthy for a while. You need first to have a lot of money into it for a long time and nobody hacked it. That's when it starts being trustworthy. So you look at the facts. A smart contract cannot smile at you, cannot look at you and say the things you want to hear, right? Smart contracts are just code and mathematics, right? So we will have those kind of people. There's no way avoiding them. And also, it's really hard to call them out. SBF, because everything is not transparent, right? We didn't know what was happening behind the scenes in SBF, in FTX. We didn't know they were using customers' money to trade badly. We didn't know they were corrupting people. There were signs, of course. There were external signs. We knew that the guy was, like the second biggest donor to Biden, why would that even make sense? Crypto, you're donating to a centralized system like the Democratic Party. There were red flags. We chose to ignore them because at the same time in crypto we have this meme, institutions are coming. It's like, okay, we got in early, everything was cheap, institution come, and prices go up and we are happy. And of course that's understandable, but when institutions are coming, it also means they are coming for co-opting, all right? Take over, centralize again, and control everything. That's what institutions are made for, control, regulation. So in travel, we will have all of these things I said today, right? We will have these superheroes who are idolized by everybody. We will have fake decentralized projects, etc., etc. There's no way to, even if I or somebody decides to be the police of decentralization in Web3 in travel, still a small industry, you could do it. Open a podcast and start analyzing every project and say, this is good, this is bad, or this is 100% decentralized, this is 50, this is 30, this one is 30, saying it's 60, all those kind of things. Well, first of all, people won't really listen to you too much in a bull market because they don't care. Again, as I was saying, they just care the token going up. Secondly, you won't be able to keep up. There's going to be too many, and often the analysis takes too long. All right. So what we can do as an industry is trying to learn the basics. At least learn the basics. Maybe the most return on an investment in this space comes from understanding this. Looking at the project and understanding how decentralized it really is. And a lot of this happens by looking at what it does on chain. Okay, I have analyzed projects in the past where I couldn't find any on-chain activity, and that was a pretty strong signal that they are just saying they're decentralized. Again, I have to insist on this. It doesn't matter if you're not fully decentralized as a project or just slightly decentralized. What matters is when you pretend to be. Okay, and if you are the person who buys the tokens or uses the services or works for them or whatever, you need to know how decentralized they are, and you have to compare their marketing, communication, marketing narrative with that. And I hope with my podcast, having been able to give you a few ideas on how to do that. I did it in the past. Maybe I will do it again. Maybe I should write a more specific manual on, or maybe a framework on how to analyze these projects. But remember that decentralization is why we are here. Decentralization is not possible 100% for 99% of projects out there in crypto travel. And if we abandon decentralization, there's no way we're going to create anything which can change the status quo. We are here for decentralization. Let's learn how to see it, how to find it, and let's learn how to build it. And in that case, yes, Web3 will actually eat travel. And we're done. Thank you for listening to this episode. For more insights, follow me on Twitter at Tripluca, TRIPLUCA. If you enjoy my podcast and want to support it, head on to podcast.web3intravel.com, 3 is a digit, and mint an NFT. If you want to sponsor it, you can do it at the same page. I will mention you in the podcast, and your name will appear on all donation NFTs for a while. Thank you, and ciao.